Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Bekah, this is Bekah's Bookshelves, and today I am filming my June TBR. And yes, I am aware that it's already the 3rd of June and I am a little late, but things are just crazy at the minute with like my business and homeschooling and whatever else, and obviously the world ending. So I am running a little behind, but I have got an absolutely cracking list of books that I want to get read this month. And I'm going to start off with a couple of audiobooks, and you will never believe, if you've watched any of my other videos or seen what I talk about in the book community, I just don't think you'll believe what I am listening to. So May time, Kayla from Books and Lala was talking about how she was planning on binge reading the Selection series because it's one of her favourite series from a while back, and obviously they are releasing the TV show shortly, so she wanted to binge read the series in, kind of in preparation for the TV show. And people were talking about it that much and bigging it up that much that I thought, do you know what, it's probably not my kind of thing, but I'll give it a try just to see what all the fuss is about. And not to spoil anything that I tell you in my May wrap up in a few days, but yeah, I am continuing with the series. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. So at this point now, I have got the last 2 books to read, which is the Her and the Crown, which follows the next generation in the Selection. So I'm going to start the month with those, and also I've got another audiobook that I'm planning on listening to, and that is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. Now this came about because on Instagram there is an account that I follow called Reading Mum of Two, and she came up with this idea of doing a book recommendation swap. So obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, people can be struggling financially, and it's not always feasible and not always just available really to do an actual book swap. So what she did was she came up with this idea of a book recommendation swap. So people kind of put their interests forward, I'm interested in taking part, and she then went away and kind of paired people up and connected them via message, and basically it was down to us then in our pairs to get to know the other person, get to know the reading habits, the likes, dislikes, and then recommend a book for them. So I was paired with Stacey from A Book Shared, and we kind of agreed that because we've both got quite eclectic taste in reading, we agreed that we'd give each other 3 options of recommendations. And so the options she gave me was for the kind of dystopian YA sci-fi type thing was The Host by Stephanie Meyer, and bizarrely this is the actual first book that I put on my Goodreads TBR back in 2013, and it's still just sat there all these years. So I thought, do you know what, I'll go for that one, because if that isn't the universe giving me a nudge to read that book and get it off my TBR, then I don't know what is. So I'm going to give that one a try. It is hella long. Like, I looked at the audio and it's 23 hours, which is it's a commitment, definitely. But yeah, I'm going to give that one a go and let her know how I felt about her recommendation. And then the first actual physical book that I'm going to read is Camgirl by I think she pronounces it Isa. I know it's Isa Isabel, but I think she pronounces it Isa. and I can't pronounce her last name. I think it's Mazai. I'm really sorry, I'm rubbish at name pronunciations. Now, Cam Girl, I'd never heard of this book, but Amy from Amy Myers, I'll put the links below to all the people that I mention. So she actually showed this book in her spring haul video, and it sounded so interesting, and she was so kind of enthusiastic about this book that I just paused the video right there and then and went and bought it. And so this I have already started, because you know it's the 3rd of June, and I am already about 260 pages in, and yeah, it's really good. It really is, and obviously I'll talk about that more in my June wrap up next month. But yeah, so basically, Issa, she became a cam girl, and I'm trying to not tell you too much. So it is about her exploits as a sex worker, let's be honest. If you are not comfortable with reading about sexual things, then you will not enjoy this book. It does go into detail, it is quite graphic, and it's quite matter of fact about things that, you know, they're not tiptoed around. She does just come out with what's going on. So there are, you know, some hot times in this book. So she talks about her exploits, but also we get to know Issa as a person, why she entered the world of sex work, and how she feels about everything and her relationships from that. And I have heard, but obviously I'm not 100% sure, that it then kind of goes on later as to how she deals with the things that she's been through and the things she's experienced. So yeah, it is one that I would recommend, as long as you are not sensitive about things like that. And then the next book I'm planning on reading this month is called Rot and Ruin by Jonathan Mayberry. This is a YA zombie fiction series. It's massively popular within the zombie reader community. Everybody's heard of it, and it's been on my TBR for quite some time, and I've just, again, it's one of those that I really do want to read it, but you know, there's just so many books and I never seem to get around to reading it. And somebody that I follow on Instagram called Just a Boy, he had posted about this book, and I commented just asking, you know, how did you find it? This is something that I've been desperate to read for a while, never got round to it, etc, etc. And we ended up talking about the series, and we kind of said, well, maybe we could do a buddy read in June. So yeah, we started on the 1st, and we've agreed like a set number of chapters each week, and then we're gonna, you know, talk about what's happening. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. And this month I'm going to be joining in the Galleyathon readathon that is all based on reading your NetGalley books and getting them done and reviewed and off your list. And with that in mind, instead of just getting through the list I already had, what I then did in preparation for Galleyathon was apply or request to read quite a number more books, and I got accepted for the vast majority. So basically Galleyathon worked in the wrong way in that instead of getting through my TBR, I've added to it. But so now I feel like the whole month should be Galleyathon, in fact possibly the whole next 3 months, but never mind. So this is a readathon being hosted by Connor from Connor's Library and Brooke from Brooke's Books. Again, the links are down below if you need them. And it is being held from the 15th to the 21st of June, and you know, that is it basically. It is for you to join in and get through your NetGalley TBR. They are hosting some things over on Twitter, and there is a bingo board, but I'm not on Twitter, so I won't be joining in those. but I will be joining in with the bingo board and, you know, doing some Instagram posts. So the NetGalley arcs that I am going to read this month, and obviously some of them will be over that week in June. Well, the first one is called Stella Story, and that's by Louise Allen. This is basically a foster care memoir, and if you've ever read any of the foster care or foster parent sort of memoirs before, or stories before, then you know exactly what these are about. Basically, it's the foster carer talking about a specific case or experience with a child that has come into their care via social services, because this one is based in the UK, and that's basically, like, there's nothing else you can say about them. That is basically all they are. And obviously there's lots of trigger warnings with these books, with, you know, regards to child abuse in all its forms. Obviously not every single case involves every single type of abuse, but you don't know what it is going to involve going in. So if you've got any sensitivities in the, you know, in that kind of general area, then you need to be very careful going into these books. And the next arc that I'm planning on reading this month, it's kind of along the same lines, really. I hadn't planned that, but it's called Handle with Care by Rachel Hearson. Now this is, it follows the trend of, you know, over the past 12 plus months, where there's been the release of lots of medical professional memoirs, you know, from all aspects of medicine and healthcare. And this, I haven't actually seen one from this aspect before, and that is from the health visitors aspect. Now, a health visitor within the UK is quite often, you know, the first line of support for families who are struggling. And so, and to be honest, they're not always a welcome support or a welcome professional within families, because they are the first line of people that would deal with any kind of parenting issues. They would be the first people that spot signs of neglect or signs of abuse, and they are there sometimes to check that parents are doing what they should be. And I know that's not how they like to be seen, because obviously health visitors can be a very positive thing to have, you know, and to have the support of, but in some cases, unfortunately, they do have to deal with the rough side of life. And so this is just, I guess, opening up the profession so that other people can see what it's all about. I mean, these are actual real qualified nurses, but quite often people don't realise that. They think that health visitor is just, you know, not a qualified position, or that they're just people who sit in your house and judge you, and they're not at all. They are qualified, experienced nurses. And so for me, I think this memoir is gonna show people what the profession is actually about and what the job entails. And the next arc on my list for June is called Guantanamo Voices, and that is by Sarah Merck, and this is a graphic novel. Now, the story behind it is that Guantanamo was used to house people who have been suspected of terrorism in the United States, and all these, you know, roughly 780 prisoners have been there over time, and 40 people are still being held there as well. And many of them are there for years and years and years without actually being charged with a crime. And this is something that I know very little about. And to me, I would say, how on earth can somebody be locked up all that time without being charged with a crime. And so hopefully I'm going to get a better understanding of that process when I read this this graphic novel, because what this novel does is it takes the stories of 10 people whose lives have been affected by Guantanamo, and so it looks at former prisoners, current prisoners, lawyers, social workers, things like that, and it takes all these different viewpoints of what's going on and puts them together in this graphic novel. And I think when a social justice issue like this is put into a graphic novel, I think if it's done well, it can make the issue more accessible to people. So instead of being a very dry non-fiction, journalist reporting type thing, it makes it an easier package for people to take in. So I'm hoping to learn a lot from this and take a lot away that I can, maybe even pass on to other people in conversation. And the next arc that I'm going to read this month is called Serial Killers by Nigel Blundell. And this is what it says on the tin, basically. It looks at quite notorious serial killers and the cases and the crimes and the victims. But again, this takes a very rounded kind of viewpoint in that it gets opinions and advice from various experts from different fields and puts them together so we can hopefully kind of get a better understanding of what was happening, why this person committed these crimes, how the victims dealt with things. And by victims, obviously, I mean like the people who suffered, as in the family members, the loved ones who lost somebody. So again, I'm hoping to learn quite a bit from that. I do really enjoy true crime, so that's something that I am looking forward to this month. And this month, I am hoping to finally get around to 2 books that I think everybody has read except me. Like, so many people have been talking about these books. And the first one is The Recovery of Rose Gold by Stephanie Robel. And that, if you haven't heard of this book, very basically it is about a woman who, as a child, she was poisoned by her mother. The mother had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and it is sort of about that kind of experience, and then also later on as an adult how she deals with it and deals with the aftermath of the abuse. And her mother I think is released from prison and goes back to live with the daughter, but I'm not sure about that. I haven't paid massive attention to the actual plot or what people have spoken about. I've just kind of listened to the brief overviews and how everybody is raving about this book. So I am desperate to get into this, and I'm finally going to put it on my TBR this month. And then the next one is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Again, if you haven't heard of this book, where have you been? Like, seriously. This is another one that I literally, I don't think I've seen anybody say anything negative about this book. It sounds amazing. It sounds like something that I would love. And, well, the cover looks fantastic. And it's my first Grady Hendrix book, even though I've had Horror Store and My Best Friend's Exorcism on my TBR, on my wish list kind of thing, for quite some time since they were first released. So I'm finally getting around to a Grady Hendrix book. Everybody raves about him, and basically this is obviously like a book club. It's a group of women that come together, they form a book club, and they all love true crime, and they talk about, cases that the FBI have worked on, things like that. And then somebody new moves into the neighbourhood, this kind of strange, you know, mystery man, and they start speculating about things, and then they start for some reason investigating him, and that is all I know, and I just can't wait to read it, and I'm really excited. And no matter what, I am fitting those 2 books in. I do not care. I'm doing it. I can just, because if I do not just read them, they're gonna end up like other books that I've been really excited about, and they'll just sit on my TBR forever, and eventually other things will kind of, you know, take priority. So I've bought them, I'm reading them, it's a done deal. And that is possibly everything that I'm going to read this month, although I say that every month and then I still fit more in, and then, so I don't know. But thank you for listening, and thank you for staying this long, and I hope that you're all staying safe, and I will see you shortly with my May wrap-up video. Goodbye.